Welcome back to NASCAR Report today. There's a story making the rounds claiming Shane Van Gisbergen just stole a $50 million sponsor away from Denny Hamlin. It's a bold headline, and on the surface it sounds like a clean, simple story: one driver wins, another driver loses. But before buying into that headline, let's actually look at what's happening behind it, because the real story here is a lot more layered than the claim itself, and by the end of this video you'll understand exactly why this comparison even exists in the first place. SVG isn't just a driver known for one wild breakout weekend anymore. Trackhouse Racing has spent the last 2 years building a real, structured commercial program around him. Red Bull signed on as a primary partner for SVG across 25 Cup races in 2026, and Superfile expanded into a major partner tied directly to the number 97 car after first joining the team for the Daytona 500. Here's the part people often miss: sponsors were never really buying paint schemes. They're buying attention, reach, and a driver capable of carrying a brand story forward. SVG has quietly been delivering exactly that, race after race. None of this proves Hamlin actually lost anything specific. What it does prove is that SVG now carries enough commercial weight to be mentioned in the same breath as NASCAR's biggest and most established names, and that all starts with results, not sponsorship dollars. In 2025, SVG won 5 Cup races, made the playoffs, and took home Rookie of the Year honors, the most wins by a rookie in a single Cup season in NASCAR history, with nearly all of that early dominance coming on road courses. After the 2023 Chicago street course shock that first put his name on the map, 2025 turned that surprise into an undeniable pattern: 5 wins in 6 road course races that season alone. A driver who owns a specific type of race gives sponsors an incredibly easy story to sell to fans and investors alike. Trackhouse backed that momentum with real commitment. In August 2025, the team signed SVG to a multi-year contract extension, which matters more than it might seem on the surface, because major sponsorship deals require long-term stability. No company wants to build an entire marketing campaign around a driver who might not even be with the team the following season. Then in 2026, Red Bull confirmed it would serve as a primary partner for both SVG and Connor Zilisch across 25 races, while also remaining Trackhouse official energy drink partner across the entire organization. That's not a one-race attraction anymore. That's a genuine long-term marketing investment from one of the biggest brands in global sports. Meanwhile, it's worth remembering that Hamlin wasn't sitting around without sponsors of his own either. The number 11 car carried Progressive at Watkins Glen, King's Hawaiian at Pocono, and National Debt Relief at Charlotte throughout the 2026 season. Which is exactly why the $50 million claim feels so strange when you look closely at it. If this were simply a story about SVG finding new sponsorship money, there wouldn't be much of a real conflict at all. But the headline doesn't say SVG found money, it specifically says he stole Hamlin's. And those two claims are worlds apart from each other. Then SVG kept winning, and the timing could not have worked out better for his commercial pitch. At Watkins Glen in May 2026, he erased a 29.2-second deficit in the final 24 laps and went on to win by more than 7 seconds, his 7th career Cup win, and every single one of them has come on a road or street course. That wasn't just a nice moment for highlight reels, that was practically a made-for-television sponsor commercial happening in real time. At Sonoma in June, he held off a hard-charging Chase Briscoe by just 0.357 seconds on the final lap. 2 more marquee road course victories in the same season, arriving at exactly the moment sponsors were watching closest. Now picture the actual decision facing a marketing executive sitting across the table. On one side, there's a driver with decades of name recognition and a long, proven sponsor history. On the other side, there's a driver who's become nearly impossible to ignore every single time the schedule reaches a road course, who's already backed by Red Bull, and who's part of a team clearly building its entire future around him. That's not really old versus young, and it's not good versus bad either. It's proven, established value going head-to-head with fast-rising value, and that's a genuinely difficult call for any brand to make. And Hamlin's own resume only sharpens this comparison further instead of settling it. He's a Joe Gibbs racing driver and co-owner of 2311 Racing, and by the middle of the 2026 season he already had 4 wins on the board, including an early season victory at Las Vegas, plus a career milestone that placed him alone in 10th on NASCAR's all-time Cup wins list, spanning 20 different seasons of competition. He wasn't fading in any way, which is exactly why losing a sponsor to a rising younger driver would sting far more than simply losing one because of poor performance. Here's the truly important part of this whole story, though. There is no verified NASCAR announcement, no official statement from the league, and no public contract confirming that a $50 million sponsorship package actually moved from Hamlin over to SVG. That specific headline claim remains completely unconfirmed as of right now. What is confirmed, and what we can actually verify, is that Red Bull expanded its commitment to 25 races, Superfile grew into a much bigger role around the number 97 car, and SVG simply kept winning throughout the year. Those are the real, documented facts. The leap from those facts to, he stole Hamlin's $50 million sponsor, is the allegation, and that's the exact line this story has to walk very carefully. So what could stealing actually mean in a situation like this? In NASCAR, attention itself carries real, measurable value. If a company keeps seeing SVG's car dominating every road course, sees Red Bull building an even bigger program around him, and sees Trackhouse handing him more and more commercial space, that company might simply decide the younger opportunity has more long-term room to grow, and none of that requires Hamlin to become any less valuable at all. A new driver doesn't have to beat an established star on the racetrack to compete with him off of it. He only has to become the more exciting, more future-facing investment for a brand looking ahead. SVG made absolutely sure that case kept building throughout all of 2026. His 2025 breakout season wasn't just a lucky one-off either. NASCAR's own season review specifically noted his first career oval top 10 finish at Kansas, which is real proof he wasn't simply a road course specialist with a narrow ceiling. A driver capable of winning across the entire schedule is worth considerably more to a sponsor than one who only dominates a single type of track. That's exactly why Trackhouse long-term contract extension made so much sense in hindsight. The team wasn't just rewarding one good season, they were actively protecting a rapidly growing asset, and once a driver becomes an asset in that sense, sponsors inevitably start looking at the entire organization around him in a completely different light. To be clear, Hamlin still holds real advantages of his own that shouldn't be dismissed: decades of name recognition, real ownership influence through 2311 racing, and one of the most recognizable profiles anywhere in the sport today. So why would any sponsor even consider walking away from all of that established value? Because the real question every sponsor asks isn't who's bigger today, it's who they believe will be bigger 5 years from now. SVG's age, his consistent results, and his growing international appeal all feed directly into that long-term calculation. He isn't simply protecting an image that's already been built, he's still actively building one race win and one new partnership at a time. That still leaves the $50 million number itself sitting unanswered in the middle of all of this. Where did that specific figure actually come from? Was it a real, formal offer that fell through? Was it a package that got discussed internally but never actually signed? Or was it simply a dramatic shorthand way of describing SVG's rapidly rising market value pulling attention away from established stars across the sport in general? These are honestly questions that can't be settled by treating an unverified number as if it were confirmed fact, no matter how many times the headline gets repeated online. What we can say with real confidence is strong enough to stand entirely on its own, without needing the $50 million number at all. SVG entered 2026 with a multi-year Trackhouse deal already locked in, major Red Bull backing already secured, and a rapidly growing commercial program already in motion, and then he went out and backed all of it up with statement wins at both Watkins Glen and Sonoma. What remains genuinely unverified is whether one specific $50 million package actually moved directly from Hamlin over to SVG. At this point, the real conversation happening underneath all of this isn't really about one sponsor logo moving from one hood to another at all, it's about market power. Sponsors don't need a splashy public announcement to quietly shift the balance of power. They can simply put more money behind the driver they believe has the stronger long-term future, one quiet deal at a time, without ever making a formal statement about it. And the fact that SVG's success didn't cool off after one hot season matters just as much as that breakout year itself did. Watkins Glen and Sonoma together proved that the hype could genuinely survive beyond a single standout season, pushing his total to 7 career cup wins, every single one of them coming on a road or street course. A sponsor evaluating him right now isn't betting purely on potential anymore. They're pointing directly at proof, and proof is always a far easier thing to sell to a boardroom than potential ever is. So here's where all of this ultimately lands. There is no public proof anywhere that SVG literally stole a $50 million sponsor away from Denny Hamlin. That remains the hard, verifiable fact of the entire situation. What the evidence does clearly show is that SVG's sponsor portfolio grew sharply alongside a driver who simply kept winning race after race. Red Bull's expanded 25 race commitment, Superfile's significantly bigger role, and back-to-back marquee road course victories throughout 2026. If stole is meant to describe one specific, documented business transaction, the public record simply doesn't support that claim right now. But if stole is instead describing the much broader battle for sponsor attention across the entire sport, then the picture becomes a whole lot clearer. SVG has genuinely become a serious commercial rival to NASCAR's biggest and most established stars. Hamlin hasn't become irrelevant by any measure, and he hasn't been pushed out of anything at all. But the pressure surrounding him is different now, because the next sponsor that eventually chooses SVG doesn't need to take anything away from Hamlin first in order to make that decision. They simply need to believe that the number 97 car is where their next big opportunity actually lives. And that, right there, is exactly how a driver can steal the spotlight without ever technically stealing a single signed contract. The $50 million figure certainly makes the headline louder and far more clickable, but the real story has always been the quiet shift happening underneath it. One established star spent years and years carefully building his value from the ground up. One rising star is now forcing sponsors across the entire sport to seriously rethink where the next decade of real value might actually come from. And if SVG keeps winning at anywhere near this pace, the real question may eventually stop being whether he actually took Hamlin's sponsor at all, and start being how many more sponsors ultimately decide they'd rather bet on the future instead of holding on to the past. That's our full breakdown for today here on NASCAR Report Today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the SVG and Hamlin sponsor situation, we'd genuinely appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and helped us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Every single one of you truly makes a difference for this channel as we keep growing. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.